Okay. Paused it for.
This is a regular meeting of the Bethany Board of Finance being held October 8th, 2024. Our meeting, because of some slight Zoom issues for those online, is starting at 6:35. The first item on the agenda is, oh, we didn't do the pledge. We need to do the pledge.
Sure.
It's not on the agenda, it usually is.
No.
I don't.
Yeah.
We've
We've been doing it since the flag was in.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I used to be here all the time. Okay, let's see. For the commission, we have Sally Heiser, Katie Erickson, Lars Demander, and I'm Sharon Huxley. Let's see. Well, in addition, we have Jennifer Savo, who is acting as our clerk. We have Paula Cofrancesco, our first selectman, and Leslie Butchagalupi, who is our finance director. Do we have anyone online now that's being,
Jen Gaelic is the only person from the public that we have,
okay, welcome. Welcome, Jen.
and she is the chair
Chair.
of the
Park
Park and Rec Commission.
Okay. Okay, so public comment is the next item that we have. There are no members of the public physically here, so Ms. Gale, do you wish to make any public comment? Give
No,
her-
I'm all set, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on with our agenda. If the first thing.
May I ask a question? Were any letters submitted in for public comment? No? Okay.
I did not receive anything.
I was only asking because that gentleman came during our special meeting
Oh,
and I wasn't sure if he was gonna follow up with, that's all.
He did not,
Okay.
but I did follow up by sending him the section of the minutes that he was questioning, that he was asking about. So I sent him, and I didn't hear anything from him after that.
All right,
Great, thank you.
okay.
must have answered his question perhaps.
There we go.
I hope
Probably
it did.
still- He's probably still.
Always say thank you.
reading
All right, we have the minutes of the August 13th regular meeting. There were some changes that needed to be made. Let's see, which things got rewritten. I've forgotten already,
Oh, now wait a minute.
because the
minutes from our last meeting will tell us which ones were.
no,
No, the minutes from last month will tell us which sections
September.
were asked to be rewritten. I think it does.
yes, okay.
It would be sections 4A2 and 4A3. They were both revised.
Okay. All right. So,
Would you guys mind just taking a brief pause while I read through these? I'm sorry. If not, then I would ask the table. I haven't had a chance to read them yet. If that's, I apologize. You,
you want to add it? Oh, so we have to table them because there aren't enough of us to
who
approve it,
was,
who were attending, because Lars wasn't at that meeting.
it was,
Because Martha and John were,
William and John. Okay.
yeah, we need Martha or John.
Okay, and just so we've learned, the new term is actually postponed. Table means something completely different, we've learned. So just,
Fair enough. Okay.
Then we have the minutes of the September 10th regular meeting, and there were some revisions to the draft. And was this originally?
This would be the first time that the board
that
is
we're
seeing
looking at.
September 10th.
Okay. Yeah. And would anyone like to have a motion so we can discuss, or do we have enough people here from,
I think we do.
we do,
Mhm.
looks like, yes.
Yep. Yeah.
There were 4 of us, okay. Wait a minute, and there were 5 of us, okay. So would somebody like to make a motion so that we can discuss them?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Okay,
second.
thank you, Sally. And Katie, did you?
I did actually read this section first because the first
You
part
were-
that I read.
No, second, I said.
I did second it, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any discussion or comments, changes requested? Mhm. We didn't do our homework.
I have no further discussion on
Yeah.
Okay, no comments. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, so they are approved. Then we have the September 30th special meeting. And we do not have a quorum of those attending. So we have to postpone them until we have that quorum.
Okay, moving right along.
Yeah, we're gonna try. You know, this, I'm not gonna jinx us.
Don't even think it.
I'm not gonna even, I'm not. All right, the finance director's report, Leslie?
Right. We're not doing bad for being 1/3 of the way, 1/4 of the way through the year. Nothing is jumping. Nothing is screaming at me that we have a major problem. Some line items are going to look like they are very highly spent, like 50-60%, but it's because of the annual service contracts where we're front loaded on those. There's only one department that I am watching, and that is the fire marshals, because he tends to not realize how quickly he can run over. And so that's the only department that I am keeping my eyes on very closely at the moment.
And Park and Rec.
Well, Park and Rec, I'm overseeing all the spend in that department right now. So there are small dollar amounts with each payroll going into the Park and Rec salary line, which is item 413. And that's because they have still been doing some field maintenance on the fields, the infield. Park and Rec has always taken responsibility for mowing the infield on the baseball fields.
They have fall ball going on,
They
that's
do.
why it's,
They do all the mowing over there.
No, the Park and Rec only does the
Oh, Park and
infield.
Rec, sorry.
Park and Rec does the infield, so there's small dollar amounts hitting that line every 2 weeks. It's nothing more than, it's $150 maximum every 2 weeks. Usually it's even less than that. As far as the director's salary line at the $71,000, there will be an addition to that with this payroll, with the payroll this week, including, which will have the payout for Anthony on it.
he received his letter this morning.
He officially resigned this morning,
This one.
so,
What is the payout?
well, all of his accrued time.
Vacation and, whatever you call the other.
The comp time,
Comp time.
plus his, pay for the last 2 weeks because he was just on leave, on administrative leave. So his payout will be hitting that line, with this week's payroll. So after that hits, there will be approximately $57,000 left on that line for the rest of the year.
For the,
On the director line,
Okay.
57,000? Approximately 57,000, yes,
but that line is him and Janice
correct.
for the rest of the year going.
That's what will be left on that line based off of the 120. There was a $120,894,000 budgeted for this fiscal year. So there will be approximately $57,000 left on that line after the payout of Anthony this week.
I don't
Because
understand how we spent more than half of it.
we had to pay them out their accrued time. Janice had 5 weeks vacation in the bank when she resigned. And we had to pay that out.
5 weeks. It's still not half a year, though. I mean,
And she probably had equal in comp times.
as a general policy, you don't put limits on comp time, like
At the moment, there is
they
not.
can carry over however many things they want. What's the rule on that?
The vacation, you can carry over half of what you earn in a year.
But with their schedules and everything, they had a lot of comp time because they weren't working the same sort of hours. We work like 8:30 to 4, like the
Mhm.
regular staff in town hall.
Okay.
So they had extra time because they opened up earlier than town hall and they were open after town hall. So there was additional time they were accruing because of their schedule at the Park and Rec.
So your strategy with staffing them would be like to work extra over the summer, the idea that they'll spread the comp time throughout the year, or?
Well, we were trying to get them to use up some of the comp time. And Anthony was kind of working toward that.
Yes, most of Anthony's had been worked off,
Yeah.
but his vacation time was not.
Yeah.
And he was here long enough that he probably was also entitled to 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's a very generous benefit.
All our benefits are very generous. But there are no policies about these things, so.
Okay.
The vacation does have a written policy on what you can carry over from year to year. And that is half of what you are entitled to.
But there's no cap on comp time.
No. Not at the moment. I have asked Jen to work on revising the personnel handbook and policies. That is something that we will tackle in the new calendar year. I need her to come back from the approved FMLA that I've given her. So, I need her to come back strong and healthy and
Jen Kabasa.
Mhm.
Well, why did you give her the FMLA?
because she's the HR administrator, she cannot approve her own
Oh,
FMLA.
okay. Yeah.
That's why I had to approve her, because she will be out for several weeks. So we will. So we will be addressing it in the new calendar year. So that a new revised policy can get to the labor attorney, so that we can.
We want it in effect for the next fiscal year.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay, anything else you wanna,
No.
that anyone has questions about or that issues? Okay, move on. Anything in the information items?
Wow, that's interesting.
I didn't think you gave us the other list.
Yeah, I only have one page there on this one. That's okay.
But back to the benefits, I mean, like, what's the ideal amount of time to roll over for vacation? Like,
And
what's
most-
standard?
What is standard?
I've never heard of more than 5 days in any of the companies I've worked for. So like, if you have 5 weeks of vacation, you can roll over 2.5.
Mhm.
That's-
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. There are, I mean. Yeah, it depends on how the policy is written. If it's at a block entitlement. At a certain date in the year, or if it's accrued throughout the year.
Okay.
Ours is a block on a set day of the calendar year, where other situations where you actually accrue your time off.
Mhm.
In most municipalities that accrue the time at the end of the fiscal year, you cannot have any more days than what you can accrue in a year.
So your whole time.
So you can roll you can, on June 30th, if you're entitled to 5 weeks, you can have you can have 5 weeks in the bank. And then you continue to accrue as long as you work it off till the end of the fiscal year. You do not lose it. But, if you have more than that, then you lose it.
Seems like,
The sick pay the same?
Sick pay is the same.
what do you mean?
So if you have 10 sick days and you don't take any, the next year you have 20.
What?
Yes,
And when you do you get that when you,
no.
so that
Sick
is
time,
you,
sick time is you use it or lose it, except it does accrue. And the reason why it accrues is because that is used in place of
Short-term disability.
short-term disability, up until disability can kick in. Yeah, that's why that accrues.
Okay. I, it's
So we're
gonna be reviewed,
Yes, it's gonna be
Mhm.
reviewed.
It's going to be reviewed.
the financial impacts of
Correct.
this weak policy that we have are big, if we do terminate some.
Yes.
Yes, because you do not accrue for payouts. You don't. The accrued time is a footnote on financials. It's not actually booked as a liability on the financials.
I mean, it's not like that big of a number if it's one person, but now we're talking about two, and
Correct.
we're talking about people who don't use their time, so.
Yeah. Most people do use their time.
Okay.
Right, and the informational things. Is there anything we need to know about the audit or the beaver issue?
Were there any transfers? I didn't see any.
No, there aren't any.
Okay.
There aren't any. I just leave it on the agenda so that it's a check for me.
The placeholder.
It's a placeholder, it's a checkmark.
Yeah.
Do I have any, is there anything that but because the minute I take it off, I will forget to add it back on.
I do the same thing with tax refunds and cemetery deeds on kind of, so I can use it window, just as, reminder.
Okay.
How's the JCC arrangement going? How many kids are using it, et cetera?
My understanding is they are capacity.
I heard 40.
What?
I heard 40.
Oh, 40. I thought you said 140.
No, and I heard that,
Oh my
and I
God.
heard that their license was expanded, the ratio changed.
Mhm.
And now whether it was 1 in 10, now it's 1 in 15.
The state's changing their regulations.
So, but, I heard we're not going to open the program to anybody else.
I
I think that was the contract, kind of.
Well, one of the
Because then it
issues,
gets a lot more expensive.
Yes.
but not, well, yeah, but remember, we only have one bus to take the kids there. So there are the restrictions of how many kids can fit on that one
And I
bus.
think they said they would take up to 46 because that's what we had.
Yeah,
registered. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if I thought we were at capacity, that we were at that 46, but we may not be, I don't know. But they,
When they bill us, we'll know.
yeah,
Okay.
when I,
When they
when I,
bill us, we'll
when I,
find
when I
out.
get the invoice, I will know.
We will know.
What I do know is that they did hire 2 of our counselors to work over there with the kids. And the first day that the bus pulled up and the kids saw the 2 counselors from here, they were filled with joy because it was a face that they recognized. So it was, I mean, so we thank the JCC for, being open and receptive to hiring counselors that we had here.
I don't know if they're putting any other kids through training or not. I haven't heard. anything. just knew about
I don't
those
know,
2 right now.
I know about
So-
2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so far, we have received the first bill from B and B for the bus.
Yeah.
That's all we've received so far. We have not received the invoice from the JCC yet for September.
Yeah, and
No, the beaver issue, we do have, an updated quote on that. It went from a $3,000 project to like a $6,500 project.
Mhm.
There is a grant available for it.
Good.
Where they would cover approximately 1/3 of the cost. And if it's 6,500, they cover a third, let's just go 6,000, they cover 2. We encumbered 3,000 from last year for it because we thought it was going to be a $3,000 project. So it's gonna fall in line for Don and his budget much easier than he thought.
can that last little bit of the ARPA money be used for this?
To fit into the guidelines of,
With local.
I think so. I'm just, can it? The question was, can it be?
I don't know. I can look. I know that next month I will have truly revised ARPA numbers because we've received the invoice for the dash and body cams.
Mhm.
And Dave and I are just confirming that this is the final, that this is total and final.
By the look on your face, it's good news.
It's 5,000 under what we thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So it's a good thing,
Yeah.
but he's doing where's the other shoe? That's the question that we both have. Where is the other shoe? Because everything we received was going to be minimum of 33,000 and this came in at 29 and change.
Well, we can't complain, but we have to be paying attention to the fact
Correct.
that we have to,
Spend it.
because there's some things that have not yet
It
been,
has to be encumbered by December.
have not actually
31st.
been used, and we need to make sure that they get allocated to something
Mhm.
and encumbered before the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good on that. On the,
I'm sorry, but what is the scope of the project? Like,
removing the beavers and putting stuff in there to make sure that they can't block. I mean,
Prevent
block
any
it again.
flooding.
The land trust had a really, really excellent thing on this a year ago where they showed how they
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that before, where they had some like beaver
really complex.
alternate water, like,
Yeah, they figured out that they have a way of making it so that they can go through, but that they can't.
Clog it,
They
yeah.
can't dam it up.
uh-huh.
I don't know.
Is
I-
it,
I
is
don't know
is
if
that,
they're-
is that being considered or no?
Well, there is a system in place right now, but the beavers have multiplied. They have multiplied, so the system in place is not big enough to deal with the increased activity in the water flow, so they have to redo the whole thing and put in a different system.
So they're not relocating the beavers, they're just.
No, they're not
upgrading
going to
the system.
relocate the.
That's what I thought, I thought that's what Sharon was saying, okay.
So the beavers, like the bears, will continue to procreate.
Yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
there are more and more. We have the same thing going on in the bear population, so.
You think the beavers would be less of an issue because it's a beaver, but clearly they're more of an issue, or just as much of an issue as a bear,
Different
just
kind
not,
of
just
issue.
not,
Yeah,
just not,
different
as-
issue.
just not aggressive.
I don't know. Okay, all right, land use. Software and the grant committee and, okay,
There is a letter from Lena in the packet. She has been researching softwares for the building department. She wants to be able to do all permitting online for all land use functions, building and land use. She gave a presentation to the Board of Selectmen last week. At which time we asked Lena, what would the annual cost be on them after, because most of her proposals here just tell us what the initial cost and setup is. It doesn't have the annual cost included. And we also reminded Lena that since most of these are in excess of $20,000, an RFP would be in order. So she has spent the last couple days clearing her desk so she can work on an RFP.
I'll try to help her.
But on the ARPA sheet, it does show that we have approximately $20,000 remaining that has been earmarked for software for permitting purposes.
But in her letter, she's saying this is like a security issue, the current system?
That's where there isn't a system.
Okay.
They use Excel spreadsheets
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily accessible to the public and it should be. And they're not, the systems or their spreadsheets do not communicate with each other and they don't have logs and they don't actually have a tracking system. And that's what they need to make sure that once something comes in, it actually gets referred every place it should be, that they actually collect the right fees, that all the inspections are done, et cetera, that they keep track of conditions. And also that once they're done, well, actually, I think she wants it to track in process, things in process, so that both applicants and the public who are interested could look things up by address and find out what the current status is. And so,
Permits and things like.
which would be really excellent. And of the 5 that she had, one of them was very inexpensive, but only 2 towns in Connecticut have it. I'm concerned about that because we've been there with accounting software, you know, and then there's one that like a third of the towns in Connecticut use, but it's much more expensive. And so she had asked for some help. How do you set up an RFP? And I said, we have to figure out what all the criteria are that we're gonna need for this to meet, so that you can put that in your RFP, so that you have a checklist once you get the proposals in. And she thought that sounded pretty daunting, but I can probably help. If I can't, we'll have to reach out to one of their engineers or another professional, but also separate from this, and yet at the same time, Chris Sullivan submitted a proposal for some tracking software for wetlands only, which cost more, appeared to cost more than the software for all of land use. It was very unclear how that was going to work. So it's a work in progress, but the money has to be encumbered. The ARPA money either has to be released for other things or encumbered by the end of the calendar year. So
And this would have to be approved by a town.
it's already been approved
Oh, I didn't understand. Where did we?
years
approve it?
ago, when we were very first giving everybody the list of all the ARPA things. And it's on the list that was approved and approved use.
And how much did we put on the?
Well, we had put 100,000 on for software. And that was to cover finance, park and rec, and land use.
And so that's what's left. But we need to know one way or the other if there's something that we can encumber the stuff or the money for by the end of the year. That would be nice, even if it's only partial payment for it. It's, you know, and that's when we're gonna be in our budget process for next year. It's coming in 2 months.
Yeah.
Scary, isn't it? So, let's see what we can do about getting that out, right? Okay. The grant committee ad,
Well, there's a draft copy of what we were thinking. It wasn't attached.
Yeah.
The hard copy here. I mean, oh, yeah. Any suggestions? Revisions?
do we need people to be dedicated first time around or is interested enough? I'm just throwing that out because we had sort of said the first round of the committee would kind of be people investigating and deciding what the real committee ought to be, and therefore I don't want people to commit. Well, we had said we don't want them to commit until they.
All right,
they
so do
for
we
sure,
want to change the word dedicated to interested?
Yeah, but that might be too lightweight, right?
I prefer dedicated to interested, but maybe passionate or something.
Oh,
If you
passionate, that's a
wanna make it a. I mean,
That's catchy.
not gonna a little too much,
As long as they behave.
Well, we're
Sorry.
saying that if you don't have experience, we're gonna train you. How can you be
Yes.
passionate about something you have no idea about?
Well, you might know and you might not know.
But you might
That's all.
wanna learn.
Except you might
You're a
wanna, yeah,
passionate
you can be
individual
passionate
About
too,
wanting to learn.
wanna help the town, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're changing that to
Do you have a
passionate?
suggestion?
Interested sounds better to
You like
me.
interested?
Interested.
Nobody's passionate about.
Yeah.
That's,
a
I
lower-
said that and
lower level,
everyone
right?
criticized me.
all right, interested.
I'm also gonna be putting something in the bulletin for the solid waste and recycling committee too, so we'll put both of them together. We'll strategically position them in the bulletin.
But this one above that.
One is
Yeah.
trash, one is
This one
trashy and the other's not so much.
Grant comes before solid waste, so.
I said one would be trashy and the other's not so much.
Because it took out passionate.
You realize that, they
You don't wanna
did
be
put
passionate
these-
and trashy at the same time.
These are going on YouTube and the whole world can watch them.
Well, you don't have to mention my name.
Oh, you can
Nobody
be,
would know
It's a
me.
video.
Nobody would
it's
know
a
me.
video.
They'll see you.
I have my back to it.
No, you don't. It's
Yeah, you're
watching you
looking
from
right at
here.
You're right, Sally, you're right.
Whatever.
You have to have a sense of
If you
humor.
can't
So,
laugh,
Sorry.
then you might as well just
Absolutely,
have to
cry.
have a sense of
absolutely.
humor.
We can't. anyway.
Okay.
Okay, and this has to get changed anyway, because Leslie doesn't want the email coming directly to her.
No.
I
To the
have no
finance
idea why.
office.
And if you send it to me, we'll do a box. I'll do it like the other one, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have two emails, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna use it, send it to the generic email.
Mhm. And
Like,
others
what's in
have
both of them
offered to
every
put
day,
this
so.
on their other, moderators of other websites have also offered to spread the word, so. Or websites or Facebook pages, or I don't know. I don't do either, so.
We didn't see minutes from this meeting, right? Like, to approve?
Yeah,
Because,
Yes,
because we didn't have a
because-
quorum. That's fine.
Yeah. All right, so now the only question is, what do we wanna fill in on the deadline for applications?
Oh, good grief.
When is this going out?
Is it gonna go in the bulletin?
If it's going in the bulletin as well as somewhere else, when does the bulletin come out again?
The bulletin, I'm putting this, November 15th for the deadline for the solid waste and recycling committee. Because if the bulletin goes out prior to the first, it's gonna give people at least 2 weeks to respond.
That sounds good.
I guess.
And it's a Friday too, so it's Friday, November 15th.
I mean, is there really a deadline?
How about if we just say, please let us know. No later than November 15th, if you're interested. I don't know.
Or do we wanna leave it blank?
Do you, oh, you know, and Neil, you know what I put for the
It's
wording was,
I know, but this is.
if- please submit an email of interest to that, whatever that your email is that you're using. I put that for the
All
solid
right,
waste.
oh, all right, so how about if we changed it to, like to hear from you by?
12 p.m.
That's pretty good.
Your watch is
Hate my
talking
watch.
to us, okay.
I hate my watch. But the worst thing is when Siri goes, I'm sorry, I didn't get that, and I'm thinking, I'm really glad you didn't. It'll hear me say something.
So
The
please
Siri
respond
world
by
should-
Friday.
Oh, well, I'm changing it.
Yeah, just,
Please respond by Friday.
We would like to hear from you by November
Yeah.
15th, there's something along those lines.
no later than, no later than. I mean, it's still a deadline, it's just not a deadline.
Leslie, we did get confirmation that we're able to provide some sort of training, right? before we send
Yes.
this out.
Renata and Juliet from Scrog both told Jen that they would be more than happy to come. Because they wanted to, I mean, they're already like, what do you need? What do we need to teach? You know, they're like, anything, the writing, the writing process, the review process, the how-to, they will walk us through anything we need for as many people as we need, and they will even come multiple times if need be.
They're a contracted service through the Council of Governments,
Mhm.
through Scribe.
And Jen had,
And they were willing to start like next week.
November 15th is too late.
well, what we could do is have one sooner than that and invite members of other boards and commissions. Because they should know about this too, and we should know. We should know before we start talking to other people about it, right? Because except for Lars, we don't know what we don't know. Right?
What do you mean?
About grants.
You're a grant expert.
You're an expert. At least you're very effective at getting grants.
Yeah, suppose. But
Well, it works, right? It
Yeah.
works for
That
you.
letters of recommendation.
We're
I
teasing
don't
you.
remember over the years, but I mean, municipal's probably a totally different ballgame than the.
Yeah, I know, but you probably know all the buzzwords.
Federal and state, yeah, there can be big
Yeah.
differences.
Do we want to see what they might be able to do in November? Because we can let people know from all the boards, town boards and commissions about a program, and you could tell them if you're interested. If you're interested, call, well, and we can remind them.
Should be probably earlier November because of Thanksgiving, you know,
Yes,
I'm not gonna get a lot of people here for that.
Thanksgiving is very late this year too.
If you have an informational meeting prior to the 15th, you might get people who will then apply by the 15th. If they know
To
what
join
they're
the committee, yeah.
actually
Mhm.
applying for. Maybe apply isn't the right word, but showing
So
interest.
do we,
in.
you know, if we set up a date for some training, do we want to put that in here? That initial training, or there'll be an informational. So that, you know, because maybe someone won't sign up because they have no idea, but then they'll come to this informational.
What we could say in here is that we're going to try to have an informational meeting prior to the,
Suggested deadline.
prior to the suggested.
First, I'll
Reply.
find out if they would be available prior to that. And we can just. Because we're already stating that we're committed. That we will provide training. So if we have a firm date, I can put. That in there, we can
Mhm.
insert a date in here if there is
Okay.
one.
And the thing is that, I don't think we need to wait for a whole bulletin cycle because this can go on the town Facebook page and
The website.
webpage and other places so that people will know as soon as we have a date.
Right.
But it has to work around, especially the first 2 weeks of the month that are full of meetings. But then there's also the Conservation Commission and the Land Trust at the later in the month.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't even know when they meet. I just know they meet later in the month.
We can check the calendar, because most of the meetings are on the calendar. We can check those dates.
Okay, so, how do we want to say that? Okay, so, but if there is a date, say, we have scheduled a preliminary informational meeting for blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Please notify finance, no, Leslie Bacigalupi at Bethany, ct.com. Oh, we'll tell you where to go. You know what? It'd be good if we could do it at Center Station,
Mhm.
or would that not be big enough?
That holds up to about.
Am I
Or-
optimistic?
I think you're probably big enough.
Okay, I mean, it's a nice,
We just have
it's a
to
nice
check the
location.
calendar too.
Yeah,
'Cause
well, we-
believe it or not, it does get used quite
If
a bit.
it's not big enough, you could do it at the lodge. You could fit a lot of chairs in that room.
can we leave this in your very
We could do
capable
it at
hands?
the,
Yep,
Okay,
I can do it.
We will-
Public Works.
Make it work, too. Make it happen.
we don't have a second floor yet.
Or we could go down to the brewery.
That's actually, we have it at
You
NIMCOG.
could-
It is out the bid though.
It is.
Yes, it is out the bid.
Okay,
all right.
moving along.
Moving right along,
I just have a question. I don't think this is gonna be an issue, but are we opening this to non-residents?
The grant committee?
Yeah,
I would say no.
Why?
I would say no too, but some of
Okay.
the people who work in town departments might want to do it and they might not live in
Oh,
town.
but if we're open it up to town departments and boards and commissions, then town staff could go, right?
Yeah, that was my
I mean, we'll
question.
let-
Oh,
Leslie
okay,
know.
all right. I thought
Yeah,
I thought you meant somebody who lives in another town who just saw it and decided they wanted to join on. You just
No,
mean.
I mean,
boards- okay.
interested
Because
people.
their town needs grants as well. So
Yeah,
this
so
is
they're
like
gonna like,
free.
hey, great idea. I'll copy that. No, like,
Okay.
yeah,
All
okay. Not, I don't think we need to get hung up on it, but
No, I
Yeah.
agree.
No, I think we just say interested people and,
I said people that pay property tax, like business owners too, not just residents.
no.
that's, yes. So, but economic development would know about it. Right? And we should be able to get this thing.
I'm hoping someone from economic development would want to join this.
Sharon.
Yes,
Sharon's on economic. Multiple hats.
too many hats.
Are you the only, there's more people on it.
Planning and zoning probably wants to get on. A
They-
couple people there.
We would like to think that. We would like to think somebody from every single board or commission.
Well, because at their last meeting, they were talking about granting,
Yeah.
looking for grants.
They get it occasionally. Yeah,
So,
I'm
you
not
know, one
disagreeing.
would hope that
Um,
that would. All right.
yes, yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Yours? Okay, and the rest of them, there's
Thanks,
nothing
Leslie.
really going on, right?
No,
No,
Okay. Under the chairman's report, there was an Amity Finance meeting yesterday. It's only 2 months into the year and they're already kind of running a surplus for this year. Already, well, it usually doesn't happen till March or April, so. And they have less money. They have a tighter budget. Well, they don't have less money, but they had less of an increase than they wanted.
Okay.
Okay. Moving right along, the first selectman's report.
Okay, well, as I had mentioned, we are gonna be advertising, the board had approved reactivating the solid waste and recycling committee, so. We're gonna be posting that in the November bulletin. And,
Oh, yeah.
last selectmen's meeting, we also, I notified the board of approval of filling some other vacancies on economic development, conservation commission, one of our hearing officers, Carol Goldberg, that you wanted to return in for another, slot to do that. And then I'm gonna look at the list, check with Will, see if we still have any other positions that are still open. We'll repost again. So we wanna try to fill as many vacancies as possible. Eric Frieden said he will work with me once we get responses for the solid waste, depending on the number of, of interest, will take up to 7, because I think that's what the previous committee was. They had been inactive since 2018, I think was the last time any minutes or anything had been submitted from that committee, so we're activating it again. Some people like to talk back.
The solid waste committee is, I thought it was more of a recycling committee, is it?
Well, it's gonna be a combination.
Was it historically a combination or is it?
Yes.
Believe it
Yeah.
was, yeah. I
Okay,
believe it
okay.
was. And it's more of an advisory, they'll work on looking at what we do, what we've done, what we've done, and try to come together with some strategic plan with that. Obviously, a few of our items are still on hold, Russell Road, there's the owners are still finalizing things at their end. Simpson property, we are going to be working to give them a deposit so that it still holds things in place, hoping, what did it say, within 6 months, I believe, we should see the end of this. And then the solar farm is that,
Wow.
oh, it's never done that before, hold on, that is bizarre, oh, there we go. Okay.
We are not
We're
being.
not very active, are
we're
we?
not animated this evening.
So long.
Nobody else. And you told
We're
me
just
not to
kidding.
make people laugh,
Just-
so,
yeah.
that's what you get.
Yeah,
The
but
solar
we've been
farm
doing
is a
YMCA.
private thing, so we're still just waiting to hear if it closed.
Mhm.
Paving was completed on the 4 roads, Judd Hill, Almar, Tollgate, and Oak Ridge. Now the Tilcon has been back and our crew has been working, they did any curbing that was necessary. And then the town crew was going back and doing backfill on the curbing, so that should pretty much be complete for all of that. There was a Girl Scout project that had been approved for a food pantry up at the recycling, and the thing that had been built got wrecked, weather worn, but all the food that was in there also was expired, rotten, whatever. So the young lady has now opted to switch it to a book type thing where you can swap books in and out. And it's gonna be relocated back up outside of the recycling center where it was. So, she will be responsible for, updating it and paying attention to it, and, but that had also been approved back in 2018, I believe, so. But instead of food, it will be books. Park and Rec Commission is up and running. They've only had 2 meetings so far, but very engaged, very energetic. They've reached out to Leslie, a couple of the members, to get a handle on what's been expended in the past. They're excited about doing trunk or treat, so we're gonna help them get stuff for that. They are going to be doing Bethany hoops. But we have a meeting again next week to follow up on that and get things in place they were looking into middle school for the gym and, you know, they'll be looking at how they want to staff it with any coaches and refs and that kind of thing. So, but great group. They're very engaged with each other and it's a nice moving forward in a positive direction with the commission. So, I'm trying to think of what else. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting. I tried to write everything down before the meeting. And we'll continue to move any projects forward and things are working, so we're good. Okay.
The next, the controls and sustainability issues.
Well, they're all works in progress. The auditors have identified some areas of weakness. And we are working through modifying how we reconcile some of the bank accounts with, you know, with department heads doing in a sign off on our office more frequently than once a year, which is what we do on some of the smaller bank accounts that there's very little activity on, but they just want more hands-on. It's small things along those lines. Just, you know, normal cash control procedures, just to make sure. They ask that we tighten up a few things and we've been making we have made many of the adjustments. And, so most of the departments have been receptive and we're just working through making things cleaner, flow a little smoother. And making sure that we have more control on everything that's coming in and out. The HR now, you know, HR is always a moving target. I mean, there's always areas, Jen is always seeking additional trainings, seminars, because she needs to take so many credit hours every year to maintain her international certification. So we're always learning new things and trying to find out the best way to incorporate that and adapt that, as well as making sure that all of our departments are right-sized. So it's an ongoing process. And we're hoping to continue working through it, but also fine tuning it more so that we are more prepared going into budget season.
What does compensating controls mean?
It's a way of having more than one set of eyes on things to make sure that, for example, you don't have the same person accepting cash,
As reconciling it.
reconciling.
Okay, no, I understand.
Yeah, making deposits and reconciling. A lot of these things are financial in nature. They generally want at least 2 and sometimes 3 different sets of eyes on anything like that.
Which is why you don't have the person that is cutting the checks, reconciling the bank account. Makes sense.
And somebody else authorizes them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the small things is like timesheets. Department heads submit a timesheet that they sign off on their hours. Well, they're asking that either Paula or I review those and countersign them. Just because it's a compensating control.
They're just basic.
You know, basic things. And it's, I mean, and I review payroll very closely. I mean, I make sure that, you know, the hours are right, the wages are right, the deductions are right, and I sign off on that report. But they just want the extra step of making sure that all those timesheets are also looked over, you know, have someone else eyeballing them. Just small little things. It's a different auditor, different setup, a different lens. They're always going to look at things each auditor that comes through will look at things differently than the one before. That's true. They all ask different questions.
They all ask different questions.
Every year.
They do,
Mhm.
and they have different suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that they came in early.
Mhm.
So by the time they get everything, at least most of the things, you can't go back into last year and fix some of these compensating controls, but they'll be in place before.
Correct.
Already in place before they finish their.
So, yeah, so if the things that they have suggested, if they see, if, so, I mean, if, or something with payroll related, if they pull a payroll from this fiscal year, since they reviewed that, and they see that we've done that, that's not an audit, that probably will not be an audit finding, just small things like that. So it's good. I mean, and you learn something new from each different group of auditors that you get to, because they offer different perspectives on things. But one of the things that they have brought up, which we as a board teaser here will need to work with, is they would like us to review our thresholds and our definition for a capital asset. And Sharon felt that would be best handled during the budget process.
Actually, Sharon pointed out that we're not what do you call it? Charter town, and so we're under state statute, so the $20,000 threshold is the state statute threshold. So even though most in the state do have charters and do have larger, higher thresholds, we are a statute town, not a charter town.
But also with that is like, what do you consider a capital asset?
We've
And
gone
at
back
what,
and forth
you know,
on
and
this,
at what
yeah.
level do you start counting it as a capital asset that you depreciate it? In general, it's $5,000 is a threshold. I think they're thinking that that's too low today. That number's too low. And we may want to index where like a vehicle might be, 20,000, or 15,000, but something smaller would, you could use 5,000 for a smaller item, but you just, figure out your classes of assets and then what is the threshold, just things to think about. So these are all
It would end up moving
more items into
into the
operating.
operating budget, which would increase the operating budget. It would probably lower the capital budget in terms of replacement, smaller replacement items.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Tires.
Like tires. Yeah, that's the one that's in my head,
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
those are wicked tires.
Right,
Big ones,
so
really
just,
expensive.
I mean,
Yeah.
just something that, think about.
Yeah.
So that is one of the areas that I'm like, I can't do that one on my own. I'm not setting that policy. That's gotta be a board decision. I do have, the 2 lease agreements. I am looking over those right now. And I have to figure, I will be sending them out to legal for review and update. Paul and I have to get together to work on that. But I do have them. So, cause we're trying to figure out, the financial responsibility. Who owns what, who's responsible for maintenance, repairs, and all those fun things. That's why they need to be reviewed and updated. Because, like I said, I do have a request for fencing over with the BAA, but I'm not sure who's responsible for the improvements they're on. I'm going through them. So we can figure that out.
It's not blindingly clear. in the
No, it's
agreement.
not.
And
The
what,
town does own the land for the BAA.
Mhm.
I did find the deed for that. So the town owns that.
They just leased it.
So we just have, I mean, no, it's not.
I understand. And what's with the FD, like,
The fire department,
like what, yeah, is there a lease agreement that is in question as well?
I think that
There is a lease agreement with that, and it's a question of how much of the property over there are they leasing? And
I thought that was.
We,
I
we
thought that was
established
we established that,
that because they originally had, according to the lease, they had the 140 something acres.
acres.
But we went through that whole thing, the
At the
meeting,
town meeting, yeah.
to bring it to what,
Yeah.
about 5 acres, I think it is.
Right.
But there's a lot on that lease that needs to be looked at and cleared up, and
Correct.
it's, yeah.
Just to make sure that the town is assuming responsibility for what is the town's portion, and the individuals leasing whatever are upholding their end of what they are responsible for. So that we can appropriately budget for financial responsibilities going forward.
And if they have obligations, that we're enforcing the obligations,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was just thinking about the controls. I'm sorry to jump back.
That's okay.
Are there any system controls that you can put in place to utilize the software that we have to prevent one user from doing two tasks, competing tasks? Like,
There will be in Munis.
Mhm.
So that will make things easier, from that standpoint.
I think
But it's-
organizational controls are.
It's some of it is organizational.
Task
So-
independence.
Yeah,
And like. And a really good example would be what goes on in the town clerk's office, because they collect money for all kinds of things.
Mhm.
But they also balance the report and handle, they don't get much cash, I don't think, do they? I mean, but they have a huge number of things that have to be collected for, and things have to be paid to the state, and all kinds of little funds that, and,
and right now we rely on the town clerk to reconcile the town
own.
clerk bank account
Mhm.
and turn over the money on a monthly basis to the finance office.
and it isn't that there's anything wrong.
No.
But it's that there should be separation.
They're just saying that someone else needs to review that somewhere, but sometime before June 30th.
Like a cross check.
That's all,
And
you know?
land use has.
No, I totally understand. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if your munis can
No.
not allow
Some of it
someone
it
from the
can,
clerk's
but not
office.
all of it, no.
through the org chart or whatever, yeah.
But it will
Okay.
help with workflow from a purchase standpoint. Where they can put in their requisitions. The finance office can turn it into purchase orders. And then it will have to go through the approval process. And that's all electronic, and an invoice being applied to a purchase order cannot be paid if it's not posted. And you can't post it until it's approved. So,
Yeah.
so there will be a lot of steps involved, all good internal controls, that we won't be paying for something that has not been properly approved.
Yeah, we're kind of at baby steps, and the whole park and rec program needs to be integrated into some other system. You know, it shouldn't be wholly freestanding.
Mhm.
You know, and
They're getting there.
yeah,
Does that software that they have talked to?
No,
munis
well,
at all?
the MyRec software. It will allow us to pull consolidated monthly reports, which should match all the money that's given to us. So as opposed to getting an Excel spreadsheet that says this is what your deposit is, you will be getting a printout from MyRec for the same time frame as that deposit. So if the deposit comes on a Friday, you get the printout from the MyRec software for everything from that week. And that should match the money that has been brought to the finance office for deposit. Same thing if we get any form of land use software. The money should match what is brought in, because you can pull those reports differentiating if it's a credit or if it's a cash payment. So just, it's all smaller,
Little things.
little things that have the tendency to add up to larger problems if they're not monitored on a regular basis. And the good news here is we are moving in the right direction towards more automation and more internal check and balance. So that's the main positive here on that.
Okay,
And I think Paula covered the recycling part. Yeah.
Okay, so, so unless we have an informational meeting about grants that comes to us before November 12th, we do not need another meeting, right?
Correct.
And we're good with trying to have a meeting like that, that might be open to other people, but before November 15th, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought maybe one thing we can add to this, maybe we can say why grants are beneficial, like what, you know what I mean, like,
Grants help fund and
You
take
know,
the burden
like,
off the tax.
yeah, like. Say something about that at the beginning, or even the second sentence or something, it might,
Make them understand what the benefit is to.
yeah,
And
like,
it just they enable us to do, they hopefully would enable us to do much.
more projects we otherwise would not do,
Bigger
so.
projects and.
And bring our attention to things that need to be done, but. We'll get to there too. Okay, are we then finished for tonight?
yeah, I wanna, just bring up something for the next meeting perhaps.
Okay.
I would like a kind of analysis or explanation or whatever of the legal fees. Retainer, and then what we're spending in addition to that, and for what, in projections perhaps, something.
Legitimate question.
Hmm?
It's a legitimate question. At the Board of Selectmen meeting, it was last week, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. We, based on Attorney Marino's recommendation that we should ask for a funded budget line for other legal expenses beyond the scope of the retainer for $75,000. I didn't
The retainer
realize-
is 75,000?
beyond
No,
the
no.
retain, no.
Oh,
no,
75,000
he had
beyond.
Recommended
Yeah,
that there-
Additional 70.
the
Yes.
additional exposure,
Mhm.
an initial estimate would be $75,000. And that was forwarded to the selectmen. And because it would need a town meeting. And then they just went, no.
Hmm?
No.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of different things going on. I mean, we have the,
But it's
there's
weird. I
there's
think that they
extra
get to-
expenses for the solar field that we're not gonna get reimbursed now, I think he said.
That is correct. Yeah,
And then,
yeah, there are
the
things like this.
lawsuit that with the water, no, with the thing, and then with
Yeah.
the tax.
Oh,
Right,
right.
So
Right.
that's additional as well,
Right.
and then we
Right.
have the whole other thing, and I just think.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of money that's going to have to be earmarked, and,
That's
we
not
are coming
budgeted,
up to
yes.
budget. And I think we ought to have some good awareness
Mhm.
of what our exposure is before we start.
Yeah.
Spending capital items and stuff on things that maybe could be put off or whatever, or, that we could get grants for or whatever, and I just think that would be.
Not disagreeing with you. I did not, and I'm still not sure that they actually,
Well, I said, take it to a town meeting. but there was
except they
no-
said no. They voted no, and all I said was,
I don't
next time
remember
there
them voting
is,
no. Why don't I remember?
Were
I thought
you-
it was already
Oh.
approved.
no, we approved it. No, not the That's a different 75,000.
Oh, okay,
There are two. One was for the investigator that they finally
Right.
hired.
Okay.
No, this was for, that Attorney Marino had recommended that we look at funding, asking the town meeting to fund a line for additional legal
well,
expenditures
we have a
beyond.
bunch, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't take it to a town meeting and just
It's-
explain, there's
it's a-
this, and there's this, and there's this going on, that none of in the budget,
Well,
we can't just not pay.
no,
I
but
don't
they
think-
they just said, no,
I'll listen to the.
it was a little odd. But, okay, it was just a
I
little,
actually wasn't on the Board of Selectmen's meeting last week,
Oh,
so I didn't
okay.
see it, so.
I was.
Okay.
I
here.
was here.
No, I wasn't here. Yeah, for the
I was-
I
regular
was
remember
hybrid,
making
yeah,
a comment
but
about
I-
bringing it forward to a town meeting.
meeting
but
and they
it-
just went, no.
I see, I don't remember the
hearing it.
no.
I don't remember the no either. So
I don't remember the no. I remember them
And-
saying the Board of Finance said yes.
And recommended that they put it on the agenda for the next time a
Town
town meeting was held. And then Vin said, no, that was a mistake, or that was, he didn't,
Or we're getting our 75,000s confused.
yes.
Yeah,
but
maybe-
no,
maybe
I-
We're getting our 75,000s
And maybe they did
confused.
too.
No, this
Yeah.
is not about, this has nothing to do with that investigation. This is about the things that.
Oh,
they
the
weren't
legal
talking
things,
about.
yep.
Yeah.
And that's what he had recommended, and we sent it forward to them. And he said, no, I didn't do that. And so, asked me to comment, and I just said, I believe that Mr.
And that's- and
Marino
I
is
remember-
mistaken, because
and
we
that-
would
and I
not
remember
have
saying,
just
okay,
gone,
we'll
oh,
take
we
it to
need
the next town meeting.
75,000 for legal
Okay,
expenses.
maybe. All right, we'll have to get.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this will
Yes.
be helpful
It would,
to, and then,
yes, we need to know what we're doing. And we need to know whether we need to push that or not, or maybe,
I mean, it's good to, it's not that you anticipate being sued, but like the thing with the taxpayer, we didn't know that was going to become,
we had,
something. So you have to be prepared for
we
those.
had that lawsuit, there was the settlement with the legal costs of the settlement with the Connecticut Water Company.
Oh, that's right.
And and as Sally said, legal costs for the solar. And
Mhm.
yeah, so already we're,
Mhm.
Well, the solar was last fiscal year.
but we have to pay it now.
Yes, but it was
Oh.
encumbered in last fiscal year.
Okay,
all of it,
The
because
solar,
I thought we were supposed to be reimbursed.
yes.
we're not going to get reimbursed.
Right,
But
correct.
like, it was approximate,
Was 25,000?
25,000, I thought.
it may have been, it was. I don't know if it was 25, but it was around 25,000, but that money was encumbered from fiscal year 24.
Okay.
That is not going to hit fiscal year 25, because
Okay.
we had made a transfer for that.
All right, but we
Okay.
still have additional.
No, correct,
Right.
correct, but the solar is not part of the piece going forward on this
Right.
75. And yes, for those that paid attention, the media also made it sound like the board approved an additional 75 last
Yeah.
week at that meeting. That there was an additional,
I think something like that. When
Yeah.
I was listening to it, I was getting a little confused.
yeah, so
I was like,
you
I have to go
to,
back and look.
you
through
have to
this.
be, yeah, so it's like you can easily get confused because there
The
was,
same
the
dollar.
town, the
Yeah.
town approved 75 months ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
For a different.
we're
purpose.
asking for, we're asking,
For a line item different, yeah.
yeah.
A different, purpose, yes.
Okay.
Has
I
there
will
been, oh, one more question. Has there been any motion, any notice that someone is going to be suing us?
Not as
Nothing.
of today.
Okay. You can do your thing.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Can you turn